Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, also streaming on expertcresecrets.com, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their passive income options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to grow your wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans is achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. She has a background in financial and strategic marketing, and she has spent over a decade helping organizations of all shapes and sizes draw out their unique gold, allowing them to quickly connect with their ideal clients. She currently works with entrepreneurs and business owners to fully develop a compelling signature offer that speaks their clients' language, then helps them craft a strategic webinar based on that offer. She also specializes in filling the virtual room once this webinar is complete, and so much more, as well as leveling up your wealth using Airbnb, which is actually what we're going to be talking about, and that other stuff as well. Please welcome to the show with me, Ginny Townsend. Hey, Ginny, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fine. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more here and have our listeners hear your story, and then talk about using Airbnb to grow some wealth. And
Yes.
So for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your background and your current focus?
Yes, definitely. So like you mentioned in the bio, my background is in marketing, strategic marketing. And it's actually, I think, my love of marketing that really helped me to see the power of Airbnb to grow wealth. And I'm happy to explain that more a little bit later. But I spent about a decade in financial services marketing, and then moved over on the agency side. So I've been a part of a creative agency, and now consulting on my own, helping entrepreneurs level up their game. And by bringing creative offers, like you said in the bio, that are just a great fit for their audience. But I also have this extremely like a passion project of mine. And it really is more than that, but like helping people to become financially free. And I think Airbnb is one of the best vehicles to do that. One of the most approachable, one of the most consistent, and I think one of the most proven in this day and age.
Amazing. We're going to dive into those secrets here in a minute. But before we go there, Jeannie, I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life. And some people call these superpowers. Some people call them strengths. I believe they're God-given gifts and been given to us to be a blessing, help to others. So I want you to go back to maybe your high school days, maybe college. Right? I want you to think about maybe those one or two gifts that you believe you were given. And how do those help how you help and bless people today?
Yes. So I think I have the ability to put together a big picture, to see a big picture where some might be focused more on some specifics, like details or even specific tactics. I feel like my God-given gift is the ability to have vision at a 30,000 foot view, and then be able to actually make complex things simple.
Hey, beautiful. You even made that answer simple, right? So ability to put things in big picture, right? And vision from a big view and make complex things simple. Excellent. So let's dive right into the number one secret to leveling up your wealth using Airbnb. And feel free to tie in like your story, because let's be honest, marketing and real estate go hand in hand, right?
Yes.
The ability to market, to communicate, building systems. So secret number one or step number one for doing all of that. Go ahead, Ginny.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think I do want to go back and clarify what I had said about how Airbnb is beautiful for anyone who knows about marketing, because they actually do all of the marketing for you. As a host, they bring all of the guests, they bring the buyers to the site. You don't have to do any kind of advertising. You don't have to do any kind of like yard signs or Facebook ads or Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever, all of the other kind of typical things that you might need to do as a real estate investor from a marketing perspective. Airbnb does that for you. They even do the vetting of the people. You don't have to do background checks. I mean, I know that's not marketing, but that's just in addition. They do kind of everything for you. You just get to be able to plug in to this amazing marketplace that has a bunch of actually rabid travelers right now. So being able to leverage the tool of Airbnb, I think, is one of the first secret. Just knowing that tool exists is, I think, really the first step in the roadmap to financial freedom.
Excellent. Yeah, very well said. And by the way, my wife and I, we've done the Airbnb on both sides. We've hosted and, of course, traveled, and it's wonderful, right? In so many ways, and it's so turnkey simple. Like, they just literally make what could have been super complex. They've broken down all the steps, and they keep continuously improving it as well, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Airbnb. All the folks that are listening to this, you guys are amazing. And you're right, zero advertising, because they're so well marketing themselves, and people are trusted. All of it. We can go on and on. Okay, so A, knowing that it exists. What's step number 2 or B?
So I think being able to, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, okay, let's just say for a moment that your listeners, they have a current long-term rental. Being able to take a look at, is this asset making what it could for me? Is my ROA what it could be? So being able to take a look at what the rates can handle in the market for a long-term rental, and then being able to explore, hey, is Airbnb a fit for where I am? Because if it's not a fit, even though it's a powerful tool, it's not a fit, right? So I actually do have a calculator if your listeners would like to see, like, okay,
let's geek out right now. That sounds great. Let's do an
example. Yeah. Okay, so I actually, in the calculator, it's at ginnytownsend.com/LTR to STR. So long-term rental to short-term rental. And what I had done was I put in the numbers from a house that we used to own. Actually, it was a house that we owned in Lincoln, very close to where you're at, Brett.
Jenny, this is all coming back to me. We spoke about a month ago, and now I get so many people, and oh my gosh, now I get to meet you on camera because I was on your show.
Yes, you were.
That's right.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So yes, Lincoln. Let's go, Jenny. We're back again.
Yeah. So
I'm back again.
Yeah. So we were living in Lincoln, loved it, had no real plan to have an Airbnb at the time. And this is actually why I call myself an accidental 6-figure host. So we were living in Sacramento. My husband's job moved us temporarily to the San Francisco Bay Area. And we loved our house in Lincoln. We didn't want to sell it, And so what we decided to do, I really believe it was a moment of inspiration. I feel like it was just God being like, hey, I wonder if we could rent this place out furnished, because moving to the Bay, everyone lives in like a shoebox down there. So we're like, well, we're either going to have to sell this place, or we're going to have to rent it. We're going to rent a storage unit. Ugh, I don't want to do that. And so we're like, let's just see if we can cover our mortgage. I'd be so happy. And it was like, boom, month 1 was profitable. Boom, second month. And so we were actually in the Bay for a little over 3 years, and we were profitable every single month. And in fact, we only had 11 vacancy days the entire time. And we had kind of a unique situation. I know. But the thing is, why I love telling that story is it is so accessible. I didn't know what I was doing when I started. And we found out very quickly that we were undercharging. And so we were able to even up level our own, what I accepted each month as all right, here's our goal, by over 1,000. It grew tremendously. And so it was this huge, amazing blessing that we had no idea was coming our way. So we were, and I share that to say, we were looking at, what if we did this as a long-term rental? And we had to account for the money that we would have spent in a storage unit. But now, for anyone who is in that kind of a situation, or if maybe not, they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their primary home, but if they already have a long-term rental, what could that be doing for you if it was a short-term rental? And I'm happy to send over, it's a very simple calculator. You enter in numbers you already know, and there's a link to a tool that will give you what your property, you just put in an address and it'll give you an estimated annual salary or annual revenue potential for that specific property, which is really, really cool. And then you just see.
Yes, by the way, it's ginnytownsend.com. It's GINNY. Townsend, TOWNSEND.com. And then the calculator is a link there, or do you need to force?
So it's just, I need to add a link to the homepage because I keep talking about it more and more. But the URL is LTR2, so TOSTR. So if you're turning a long-term rental to a short-term rental. And the example that I had it wasn't the house that we had on Airbnb. We actually we had 2 houses in Lincoln while we were there. I put the first one in there, and it was over a 600% increase in monthly cash flow simply by furnishing it. That's the secret. I'm going to preemptively say that's secret number 3, furnishing it. That's the only thing that I know of that you can actually increase your cash flow by 600% easily. That's it.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. So Airbnb, know that it exists too. Get used to the site. Or number 1, and then number 2, do like an underwriting, like find out like what are some of the rental rates which you potentially do for that area. Number 3, furnish it. Okay. And then now, are you still doing those now? Do you still have those going?
Yeah, so we actually sold the one in California, and we bought a farm out on the East Coast. And we have a couple of farm cottages that we are fixing up, and they should be live by the end of this week. So we have 2 Airbnbs going live again this week. And I am so excited to enter back into it because I believe in it. I so wholeheartedly believe in it. And I feel like this is the right time to be in a short-term rental for sure.
Everyone want to travel and get out. And by the way, you're in New York, right? What part of New York are you in?
Hudson Valley.
Hudson Valley. Okay,
so about an hour outside of the city. Yeah.
So if anyone's looking for an Airbnb in Hudson Valley, check out GinnyTownsend.com. Yeah. Very cool. All right. So that's step 1, 2, and 3. Any other secrets or steps there that you want to touch on Airbnb?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, from here, it is a little similar to bringing a long-term rental to market. You have to have it photographed, you have to list it. And like, you really are just listing it in one place. Airbnb, as opposed to like all of the different marketplaces where you could list a long-term rental, or having to hire like an agent or something like that to find you a renter. But it becomes very familiar. The Airbnb platform walks you through listing a property, which is very straightforward. And in fact, they have a much discussed release that happened pretty much over Memorial Day weekend of this year. And there were like 103 updates to the site. I mean, it was like they went Apple style, like the big kind of like reveal it onesie twosie. They just went full update. And their focus on that was making it even easier for hosts to add properties to Airbnb. And what I hear from that, and in fact, what the CEO actually said is they need more supply. And that any type of business, you want to be on the side that has like tighter supply or tighter demand, right? You want to be on the side that's a little bit tighter. And so what they're saying right now is we have so much demand, we don't have enough supply. So they've made the process of bringing on listings even easier.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yep. The marketplace is ripe for it. And part of where we're in the housing crisis, right? People want to travel and rent places too. So it might as well be a rental crisis as well. So exactly. It goes hand in hand. Okay, cool. Well, so those are the main secrets for leveling up your Airbnb business, right? Building your wealth there. Anything else to touch on there?
So I think once something is live, and Airbnb is live, I think that's where I get a lot of the most, like the most common questions of just like, well, isn't this going to take so much of my time communicating with people? Or what if I have a bad guest? Or, what if? But I am here to tell you, because the margins, well, there's so many answers to this question, by the way, but like one of my favorite ones is there is so much margin on a typical Airbnb that you can hire a full service property management with just one property. And oftentimes with long-term, you need to have the economies of scale working for you. Like you might have to have 8 or 10 or 12 properties in an area to make property management affordable, to actually have that margin. But from property 1, you can afford a full service agency to handle all of the communications, like scheduling cleaners, things like that, which, by the way, another one of the questions that I keep hearing is like, so doesn't cleaning get expensive? And that is simply something that we pass through to the guest. Like I don't upcharge any. I give the full to the cleaner, because that is where, I want them to get, they do great work, right? Making sure that the place is clean and ready for guests to come in.
Love it. Yeah. And I love how we're really making the complex simple here, and we're jamming through this episode.
We are
so much meat, which is great. So you, yeah, you can hire the full-time management, which makes sense. Like in multifamily, sometimes it's 75 to 100 units
Yeah.
minimum to get a full-time manager.
Hmm.
California, it requires 60 units or more to get a full-time manager for on-site. But generally speaking, it doesn't scale for a lot of units. But what you're saying is, of course, you got to look at the rents, make sure it makes sense.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah.
even sometimes one single unit, you can justify a full-time property manager because you're getting that 600% potential difference in what a
Hmm.
long-term rental would be versus short-term. Is that a fair summary, Jenny?
It is. It's a very fair summary. And then also, what I like about short-term rental management companies is they are very, very aligned with your goals. So it's oftentimes not a fixed fee. It is usually a percentage of revenue. So it is in their best interest to make sure that you get the highest rate per night, that you get the most nights per month booked, because obviously that increases what they earn, but it increases your bottom line as well. So it's a truly win-win situation. And there's all kinds of even hybrid type opportunities. So if someone is like, you know what, I don't mind actually communicating with people. I want to meet people. So with this, with the first rental that I had in California, we met some of the coolest people. I actually really enjoyed talking with them, but now I'm happy to have that completely outsourced. Like that's not something I want to do. But if it's in your phase of life that you're like, yeah, like the rentals nearby, it'd be cool to meet random people and hear like random stories from wherever part of the world they're from. It's actually a really cool way, I think, to feel connected in a time that has been so disconnected, because of COVID and everything.
Awesome. Love that. Yeah. That's a similar experience too with my wife and I when we rent the houses out, and we'd meet some really cool, neat people. And I
Yeah.
think we probably rented it 20 times, let's say. And then we took a little break because with the kids and we didn't travel as much. So we typically would schedule it when we would travel, right? That's when we would
Mm-hmm.
rent it out. And Roseville's become a little more restrictive too with the way they've done things. But that being
Sure.
said, yeah, meet some really neat, cool, interesting people, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't have met before. And
Yeah.
like I remember we go to Lake Tahoe and I'm like, hey, we're getting paid to be here. Like it feels really good. Like to really good to be like, they're paying us, I think they're paying us like $2,800 for like the week or something wild. And then we were traveling and it cost us like 23 for the week. So I was like,
Wow.
wait, so we got an extra margin of 500 to travel to Tahoe that we would have done anyways. And our house would have been sitting vacant. But
Yeah.
now it's like that plus all of our money for all of our food for the entire family of 7, right? So,
Love it.
yeah, so
Love it.
that's pretty cool.
It
Awesome.
is.
Anything? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and like, even how I mentioned, if someone has a long-term rental, is that asset making its money for you? It's like, even if it's your primary residence, is it making the money? Like that's not often a question that we ask ourselves of our primary residence, because that's not obviously its initial goal. But yeah, it can absolutely pay for vacations.
Yeah, and I had to twist her arm a little bit in the beginning. I'm like, she's like, wait, so be living in our house, like sleeping in our beds? I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but let's
Yeah.
talk about these numbers here. Like, this is like $3,000 that we wouldn't have had, right? And we could
It's
take
meaningful.
a 1 or 2 or 3 extra vacations. She's like, oh, okay, so we take extra vacations, more time with the family. So when I framed it that way, she's like, okay, I'm in. Although it does take a lot of work, I mean, if you're living in your own house for her, because she wants to get everything organized and everything really, and I do too. But I mean, she does more of the heavy lifting when it comes to those things, right? So like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I'll tell you what, you don't have to do any of that. We'll hire the cleaners to come in. So that
Yes.
became a part of our process where we said before and or after, like we'll do both. We'll hire that. That'll be part of our profits. That's okay. And we were making an extra $2,500 this week. We can pay $500. And anyway, so those are some of the I guess the internal conversations that I have with my wife about this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's great. And I also think that it's a wonderful first touch point to say, hey, am I even interested in being an Airbnb host? Is to either rent out a room in your place or rent out your house just to see what is the experience like. Because some people, frankly, don't like it. They don't want to be in that business. But it might also be like, oh, this might actually be one of the coolest things we could do right now.
Very cool, Jenny. This is so helpful. All that being said, we're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I love that.
All right. So knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget to make sure to tell yourself to do?
Oh. So, my gosh. Okay, so the first thing that came to mind is my 25-year-old self. I think wanted to make really cool, beautiful things. And I would tell my 25-year-old self, like, you know what? It needs to make good business sense first. Like that really, and then you can take that thing and make it cool and beautiful.
Got it. Cool. And beautiful. Well, beautifully said. Second question. What's the number one book or you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Oh, in the past year? Well, you know what? This is so funny. I was talking about this earlier today, so I actually have it on my desk. It's called Optimize Your B&B, and it is by a gentleman named Daniel V. Rustine, and he actually was an employee at Airbnb. And so he gives a lot of insights behind like the tech of like optimizing and things like that. That's frankly his area of expertise. You know, like I said, I'm more, the vision, let's get the roadmap in place. And he's like, all right, here are the the little buttons that you need to push to make sure that you show up higher in search results. But that, like, if you know anything about marketing, that's the thing that gets you exposure and clicks and therefore money.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Next question. What's the number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Or theme or quote? Gosh, that is a good question. I feel like that's a good question. And I don't have an answer to that right now. Can we come back to that? I know that that defeats the lightning round.
It'll come to you. We'll come back to that one.
Okay.
Next question is, what are you most curious about right now?
What am I most curious about right now? So we just put our daughter, we had a daughter right before the world shut down. And this is now her first time being in, we just took her to daycare. We call it school. But to be able to, should we just have had the most amazing little glimpses into her personality because, it's just been us on the East Coast. We don't have family out here. It's been pretty closed. But when she's around other kids, she just lights up. And so I think she's going to be a very social person. And so it's been really cool. We're like, she should be around more kids more often. And so we just implemented that. But actually being curious about this new phase in her life and how to incorporate, even though, we still live all kind of quiet, secluded lives right now, how can I give her an environment where she can thrive and grow into the woman, that God made her to be.
Yeah, that's a beautiful curiosity. And so it's the best type of ones, helping to develop and inspire kids and get them in environments where they're thriving, right? So
yeah.
Really, really, really cool. Okay, so back to the other question. We can't let you forget. So quote or theme. So it could be Winston Churchill's theme. It could be Martin Luther King Jr. It could be a verse in the Bible. It could be anything. Just a quote or a theme in general that you really try to live by that helps keep you inspired, encouraged.
Okay, so something just came back to my mind, and it was actually on a message that I heard this last weekend over a podcast. And it was this idea that if there is any area in our lives that we are experiencing hopelessness, or there's just this lack of a gleaming hope, that means that we're believing a lie. Something about in that area, that means there was a lie. So it's been of late something okay, so what areas do I not have hope in? Or I'll be kind of struggling or frustrated with one area. I'm like, what lie could I be believing right now that is leading me to not have as much hope as I should in a given area?
Boom. See that wisdom? We just had to mine for that wisdom, right?
I was Airbnb, I'm oh, all right, let's go back to the rest of the world and life.
It's finances, it's wealth, it's passive income, it's leadership, it's life. So this is very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So last question is this, knowing what you know. Last question is this. You already answered that question. After helping others, after growing your wealth, after having a family, all the stuff you've accomplished so far, right? Mm-hmm. How do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to reach for new heights?
Yes. So I definitely consider my faith to be integral in that, integral. And I think having an enormous goal to work towards, I think having this big idea, this huge why that pulls you forward, I think is one of the most compelling, not anchors, because anchor keeps you in the same spot, but a compelling almost motor, the opposite of an anchor to keep you moving forward. And so I now last year, actually, in 2020, I graduated with my master's in finance. And one of my biggest thank you. One of my big goals while I was doing that master's was I wanted to come up with something like a business model that could help families grow wealthy, like become wealthy. And I actually, in that time, decided that I think owning a bank that is geared towards helping families become financially free or build legacy wealth, I think is something that it's very central to who I am. And I feel like real estate is really central to how that will look. Just throwing that out there. But I think when I come back to like, okay, like I need to do X, Y, or Z, like to move whatever I'm actually working on right now forward, whether it is, getting these 2 Airbnbs live this week or my own podcast, or I have created a course to help people like figure out the ins and outs of selecting finding, furnishing, and filling a profitable short-term rental. So it's like when all of the little things, which is, as we discussed, I love the vision. Like it's the little things that kind of are like, they feel like they take forever. It's remembering, I'm like, okay, at some point I'm going to own a bank that will help finance things that will bring financial independence and legacy wealth to families across the country. So I think having that big thing kind of just like, yes, okay, like let's go do those little things that need to get done. That's what keeps me moving forward.
Amazing. Yeah, I've heard we can live in 2 states. We can live in apprehension. That's where we don't really have a great compelling vision. It's not, not writing down the goals, not visualizing what they could be, what it would feel like, what it would look like, the impact it have on others and your family. If you don't have that compelling why or that big, you're kind of living in apprehension. Or you can live in anticipation, right?
Yes.
Where that vision is huge, it's big, it's compelling, it makes an impact for you and your family and others, and you're reviewing those goals, you're visualizing what it's going to be like, what it's going to feel like, and it's on a daily basis. And all of a sudden, it's like a pool. It's like a motor, but it's like a magnet that's just like pulling you towards that, right? So you can live in anticipation or apprehension. It's your choice if you're going to have that compelling vision. That being said, Ginny, Townsend, we're all out of time. For those who want to get in touch with you, what's the best place for them to find you?
GinnyTownsend.com is definitely the best place. If you are interested in actually booking a time to talk with me, talkwithginny.com. That's the best place to schedule a call.
Amazing. And that's, by the way, it's not a J, it's a G. Ginny, Townsend.com. Ginny Townsend, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to encourage you to keep using the ability to put together a big picture, vision from a 30,000 point view into simplicity, right? Complex to simple, and helping others do the same, and to level up with their marketing and their Airbnb business. And thank you for being on the show. I know we're better for it. And I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, also streamed on expertcresecrets.com, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. And using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit your real estate, including these crazy Airbnb price properties, defer the capital gains tax. Also, you can create and preserve more wealth. It also works for primary homes, businesses, cryptocurrency, and stock. So go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that. And please rate,